Déjà vu experience? Just about everybody, yes. It's quite remarkable, but it's quite normal. You don't have to go seek a psychiatrist because you've had a déjà vu experience. But many people think of déjà vu experiences as a sign of something pretty special, pretty amazing. Perhaps it's a glimpse that time is cyclical. We go round and round and relive our lives. Or maybe it's transmigration of the soul. Or maybe it's precognition. These are varyingly plausible or implausible, quite dramatic hypotheses about the nature of déjà vu. We might call these déjà vu as magic hypotheses. And now I want to suggest to you a much simpler explanation, which will probably disappoint you. It's actually based on a passage by the French psychiatrist Pierre Janet, and I don't know for sure what he meant, but it doesn't matter because I'm not using his account, I'm just using the inspiration of it. And this is what Janet said. He said that déjà vu results from an interruption of a perceptual process so that it splits into a past as well as another current experience. Now here's a little model of just such a phenomenon, okay? So, very simplified. Of course, here's the eye, and we imagine that the signal from the eye in the optic nerve and later parts of the brain, just suppose that it was split into two channels, channel A and channel B, and suppose that they were completely redundant. They're exactly the same. Channel A and channel B are just, channel B is just a duplicate of what's in channel A. And then suppose that they arrive at a part of the brain that we're going to call the familiarity detector. Well, in fact, some people, Jeffrey Gray and his colleagues, have hypothesized that this is a role that the hippocampus plays. But that says maybe we simply want there to be a place in the brain which has the following properties. As new material comes in, it checks the material for novelty or familiarity. And if it's novel, it lets it through. And if it's familiar, it says, been there, done that. It marks it as familiar. It sends a signal. So now, all we have to suppose, this is the Janet-inspired hypothesis, suppose that the signal in channel B got retarded in its passage from the eye to the detector by a few milliseconds. Just long enough for channel A to go through and set up its signature, its footprint, it's been there, and it goes through a novel event, and just a fraction of a second later, in comes the signal from channel B, and the system says, hey, I've seen it before. Sure enough, 10 milliseconds before you saw it. But that's enough to send the I've seen it before signal on up into the system, and how that then elaborates, well, that's anybody's guess. It might depend very much on what else the person believes. Somebody who's had lots of déjà vu experiences may just say, oh, there goes that déjà vu experience again. Other people may get really tripping out on how, wow, cyclical time, been there before, kismet, and so forth. Now, so there's a somewhat disappointing, mechanical, if you like, hypothesis that it could explain déjà vu. But if that could explain déjà vu, here's a simpler hypothesis that will also explain déjà vu. We don't need channel A and channel B. Channel A is all we need. All we have to suppose is that the familiarity detector, on occasion, for who knows what reason, is spontaneously triggered. It just does a false positive. It just, suddenly it sends the I've seen it before signal spuriously up the line. And the rest, of course, is going to unfold just as it did in the first case. Now, here's the amazing thing. It's a different hypothesis. When you have a déjà vu experience, you can't tell the difference between those two hypotheses. Either one of them could be the truth, and your own conscious experience of déjà vu doesn't give you any clue as to whether either of them might be the truth. This is something for third-person science, empirical investigation, to explore.